Hey everyone, welcome to week 2, day 3 of 531 Boring But Big and Really Sore. Today is my deadlift day. I am pulling on a regular barbell still for this day. It's been nice getting reintroduced to a barbell. I had deadlifted off of an axle for so long and farmer handles for so long that I almost forgot how to deadlift from a normal height. So this first set that I have is 355 for 3 using figure 8 straps. I like how quickly they strap in compared to lasso type straps. And these move exactly like they should for a first set of 3. Very easy. Then we move on to 405 for a set of 3. I have actually forgot my hard belt bag at home, so I'm using a soft belt. I would generally use the hard belt for every lift except for maybe like moving events in strongman, such as a heavy carry where I want the stability of the belt, but also the flexibility to keep myself moving. 405 feels completely fine. And in general, the deadlifts are feeling better than last week, even though they're heavier. So here's 455. I end up taking it for 10, and sadly, I kind of quit well before I should have. I was getting a glute burn, and it was just a mental thing where I wanted to end my set well before I really should have. I probably had a good 3 to 4, maybe even 5 reps left by the time that I quit this set. But I'll try to make up for it next week. Then this back down set is 250 for 5 sets of 10. Moves really fast. I love how back down sets feel after you've done something heavy. I end up doing the 5th set of these as RDLs, and they're a little bit more difficult. And I actually meant to do these as deficit deadlifts. I just forgot. Between every 5x10 of the deadlifts, I end up doing a set of cable rows for 10 and then a set of lat pull downs for 10 with no resting in between. So basically, I go right from the deadlift, right to the row, right to the lat pull down, get a drink of water, and then repeat this until my 5x10s are done. The way I select the weight for these are so that the cable rows are generally pretty easy, but fatigue me enough that the lat pull downs get difficult. The first 2 sets are fine, but by the time I'm on sets 3, 4, and 5, it's like the perfect weight, perfect percentage to failure. Then, because I want to work on some heavy barbell rows, and the bar just happens to be conveniently loaded with the weight from the 5x10, I'm doing cheat rows. I'm going strapped up, and I widen my stance a little bit and get a wider grip as well. And these end up being 10 times easier than they were last week. So I'm excited to add some weight to these. Okay, so you might remember this from last week. This is the terrible conditioning circuit that I do. So last week I did 135 on the squat bar and the deadlift bar. I did 20 reps of front squat, 18 reps of back squat, 16 reps of deadlift, and then 14 reps of keg clean and press. So slowly making this harder every single time. So this is 140 pounds, so 5 pounds more on both the deadlift and squat bar. And instead of doing the keg for 14 reps, I do it for 15. Next week, I'll add another 5 pounds to the squat and deadlift bar. Instead of doing the keg for 15, I'll do 16. Then at that point, I will slowly adjust until hopefully by the end of this, everything is done for 20 reps and I'm up to weights around 225. I may have mentioned this last week, but even if I never make it that far to the 225, I'm going to only have success in that failure. I'm going to get much better conditioned. I'm going to get a lot of practice with moving a load under fatigue, which is really good for strongman. I'm going to get a lot stronger mentally, especially with like the lower back pump, which is important for my sport. I remember at nationals, after the second event, my back was pumped so bad from the farmer carries that it didn't quite, but it could have negatively affected the rest of the events for the entire day and the next day, because it's a 2-day competition, because all of them were extremely back extensive. So I can't let that be a bad thing. A back pump is no different than a bicep pump or a tricep pump, but because of the area that it's at, it can feel a lot more horrible than an upper body pump. So last week, I don't believe I strapped up for these. I don't know why I chose to, but maybe because I know I'll have to get used to it when the weight gets heavier. 225 isn't normally hard to grip, but after doing 40 reps of squat, you may be fatigued enough, and it's just something I don't want to worry about. Just want to worry about getting the movements in. Working on grip is not a part of this conditioning cycle. So at this point, I feel like I'm moving a lot faster than I did last week. I'd have to look back at last week's tape to actually see if I did beat my time. But I feel like I took a lot less rest with every single one of these: the back squat, the front squat, the deadlift, and the keg press. Maybe not by much, but I felt like I wasn't dropping to my knees to take a break during the deadlift. I wasn't taking as many breaths in between the squats. And there's even a portion of the keg where I continue to press for 3, maybe even 4 reps at a time, where last week it was almost exclusively single presses. I do some single presses this week too, but like I said, less of it. I did not wear a belt last time that I did this. I honestly just kind of forgot that I had it on from the cheek curls. I don't think it restricted my breathing too much, which is usually why I don't wear a belt for this, and it did seem to relieve a little bit of the back pump. So maybe the soft belt is good for this circuit, and I'll keep messing around with that. So the only reason I have this keg was because I had a competition where we had a keg carry, and I just happened to ask around, and one of the other coaches at the school that I coach at also owns a pizza shop, and he had extra kegs, and he was more than happy to get rid of one. So he actually filled it with water for me to the weight of the competition. Sadly, the competition, I misread the event. I thought it was a keg carry and then press every so often. It's like 25 feet or something like that. And it ended up being carrying the keg overhead and then pressing it every 25 feet for max distance. And just carrying the keg regularly was hard, but it did not prepare me for carrying a keg overhead for that long and that far. So I trained with it for a long time, just trained with it the wrong way. And I learned that carrying stuff overhead is not easy, even if you have a pretty good strict press. So you can see I'm getting a lot of good quick reps in. I just want to get this done and over with, and I'm happy that I can get it done a lot faster. So here's how I finished up. So I call these hanging leg raises. I call basically anything hanging leg raises that I'm hanging and my legs move. So sometimes my feet will come to chest level. Sometimes my knees are the only thing that lift up. Sometimes I take my toes all the way to the bar. So that's all for this video. Please like, subscribe, and feel free to ask any questions about my training in the comments below.